Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible and complex systems in the human body, the female reproductive system. It's really a story of potential, of creation, and of endurance, all orchestrated by a remarkable group of organs. So, let's jump right in. So we're going to frame our entire chat today around this one central question. Because, this isn't just a list of body parts. It's about function, it's about purpose, and it's about an amazing biological story that unfolds over decades. At its very core, the system is designed to handle these 5 huge processes. Every single part we're about to look at plays a vital role in at least one of these stages. It's just a phenomenal piece of biological engineering, really. All right, so let's begin our tour at the very starting point of this journey, right where the potential for new life actually begins.
First up, meet the ovaries. These are the primary female sex organs, and they are doing 2 massive jobs at once. Not only do they produce the female egg cell, the ovum, but they also act like these little hormone factories, pumping out the steroid hormones that run the entire reproductive cycle.
Now think about this for a second. The entire potential for a new life begins inside 2 small organs, each no bigger than, say, a large almond. They're tucked away in the lower abdomen, but they are absolute powerhouses. The outer layer, that's the cortex, is where all the eggs are stored and developed. In the inner medulla, that handles the all-important blood supply and nerves. So yeah, they're small, but their job is just monumental.
Okay, so once an egg is released from the ovary, it sets off on this really critical journey. And this isn't some random drift. It's a very carefully guided trip down a pathway that's been engineered for one of the most important meetings in life.
And that pathway is the fallopian tube. It starts with these delicate finger-like things called fimbria that gently sweep the egg into a funnel, making sure it doesn't get lost. From there, the egg travels into a wider, more spacious section called the ampulla, and that space is key. Finally, the path narrows down again into the isthmus, which guides the egg exactly where it needs to go. Every single section is perfectly shaped for its part of the trip.
And this is why the shape of that journey is so important. The ampulla isn't just some hallway, it's the main stage. It's the most common place for fertilization to happen. If sperm are there, this is the spot where a single sperm can meet the egg, kicking off the very first chapter of a new life. And that brings us to the destination of that journey, the central organ of the entire system, better known, and I think more beautifully, as the womb. The uterus is a single muscular organ, shaped kind of like an upside-down pear. This is the home where a fertilized egg will hopefully implant and then grow and develop for 9 months. It's held securely in place by ligaments that anchor it right to the pelvic wall. Now, the wall of the uterus is way more than just a simple container. It's this dynamic, 3-layered structure, and each of these layers has a completely different but equally vital job to do during pregnancy and birth. So let's break these down. On the outside, you've got the perimetrium. Think of it like a thin, protective skin. Then, in the middle is the myometrium. This is the muscle, the powerhouse of the system. It provides the incredible strength needed for the contractions during childbirth. But maybe the most dynamic layer is the inner one, the endometrium. This is the lining that builds up and then sheds every single month, preparing this rich, welcoming home for a fertilized egg to implant.
At its lower end, the uterus narrows into what's called the cervix, which opens into the vagina. Together, the canal of the cervix and the vagina create the birth canal, the final passageway for delivery.
The system also includes the external parts, which have really important protective and sensory functions. The mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissue, and the labia majora and minora are folds of tissue that protect the vaginal opening. Then, where they meet at the top, you have the clitoris, a key structure for sexual response.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to highlight this next point. The hymen is a membrane that might partially cover the vaginal opening, but it can be torn by all sorts of things, like sports or even just using a tampon. So whether it's there or not is not a reliable way to tell anything about virginity or sexual experience. This is a biological fact, and it's one that helps debunk a really persistent and harmful myth.
But the system's job doesn't end at birth. Nope, there's another whole set of organs designed specifically to nurture the newborn, continuing that process of childcare. And of course, we're talking about the mammary glands, or breasts. They're paired structures that have glandular tissue and a variable amount of fat, all with one main purpose: to produce and secrete milk to nourish a baby. See this number, 15 to 20? This is the key to understanding how it all works. It represents the number of mammary lobes, or separate compartments, inside each breast. And within each of those lobes, you have these clusters of tiny cellular factories, called alveola, that are actually making the milk. All of this creates this incredibly organized system of ducts. Milk that's made in the alveoli gets collected into bigger and bigger channels, kind of like tiny streams flowing into a river. It even gets stored for a bit in these little reservoirs before it's delivered through the lactiferous duct. The whole thing is just an elegant and efficient on-demand delivery system ready to provide food exactly when it's needed. So when you step back and you look at it all together, from the ovaries making an egg, to the uterus housing a fetus, all the way to the mammary glands feeding a newborn, you see an absolutely incredible, perfectly coordinated biological masterpiece. It's just amazing.
And that just leaves us with a final thought. This whole system is defined by rhythm, this cycle of creation, preparation, and renewal that repeats month after month for decades. It's like a constant echo of life's own patterns. And if our very biology is built on these cycles of starting again, what does that tell us about our own capacity for growth and change? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.